My brother stole my fiancée and got her pregnant. I disappeared for 5 years, and now that he's in a coma, my parents are begging me to save the family business that I secretly already bought. My mother called me on a Tuesday night begging me to save the family business. She said my brother was in a coma. She said the company was 3 months from bankruptcy. She said I was the only one who could fix it. I let her finish. Then I told her I bought the company 7 months ago. She went silent. The kind of silent where you can hear someone's entire reality restructure itself. Then she said, "What do you mean you bought it?" I said, "Callaway Construction. The company Dad started. The company you gave to Jet when I left. I own it. Bought it through a holding company called Driftline Partners. The paperwork's been filed since September. You've been paying rent to me for 7 months and didn't know it." She said, "That's not possible." I said, "Call your accountant. Ask who owns the building. Ask who holds the equipment leases. Ask who bought the outstanding vendor debts. Then call me back." She called back in 14 minutes. She was crying. "Let me go back. My name is Roman Callaway. 34. My brother Jet is 31. Our father Gordon started Callaway Construction in 1994. Commercial builds. Strip malls. Office parks. Medical buildings. At its peak the company had 38 employees, $6.2 million in annual revenue, and contracts in 3 counties. I was supposed to run it. That was the plan from the time I was 16. I worked summers on the cruise. Got my project management certification at 22. Started running jobs at 23. By 25 I was managing the company's 3 biggest accounts and personally responsible for $1.8 million in active contracts. Jet didn't work in the business. Jet sold gym memberships. Jet went to bars. Jet borrowed money from our parents and returned excuses. Jet was the younger brother who charmed everyone into forgetting he'd never built anything except a reputation for not finishing things. My fiancée was Tessa Langford. Together 4 years. Engaged 8 months. Wedding date set for June. Venue booked. Deposit paid. $4,200 out of my pocket. She was a marketing coordinator at a tech company. Smart. Funny. The kind of woman who made you feel like your best self just by being near her. Jet made her feel something else. I found out 6 weeks before the wedding. Not from them. From Tessa's coworker Hannah, who pulled me aside at a barbecue and said, "I don't know how to say this, but Tessa and your brother have been seeing each other. I know because she told me. She told me 3 months ago and swore me to secrecy, but I can't watch you marry her knowing this." 3 months. My brother. My fiancé. 3 months while I was running $1.8 million in contracts and planning a wedding and building a future with a woman who was sleeping with the man I shared a last name with. I confronted Tessa that night. She didn't deny it. She cried. Said she was confused. Said Jet made her feel things I didn't. Said she still loved me but she loved him too. I said, "Pick one." She said, "I already did. I'm sorry." She picked Jet. The man who sold gym memberships and lived in a studio apartment with a futon that smelled like protein powder. She picked him over the man building a company. I confronted Jet at our parents' house. Sunday dinner. In front of Mom and Dad. Stood in the dining room and said, "You've been sleeping with Tessa for 3 months. She just told me she's choosing you." Jet didn't deny it either. He said, "I'm sorry, man. We didn't plan it. It just happened. It just happened." The universal motto of people who make deliberate choices they don't want to own. My father Gordon put his fork down. He said, "Is this true, Jet?" Jet said, "Yeah. I love her, Dad. I know it's messed up but it's real." My mother Phyllis looked at me. She said, "Roman. I'm so sorry. This is terrible. But Jet and Tessa clearly have feelings for each other. Maybe this is a sign that things weren't meant to be between you two." I stared at her. My mother. Telling me that my brother stealing my fiancé was a sign from the universe. I said, "Don't do this, Mom. Don't take his side." She said, "I'm not taking sides. I'm saying sometimes people fall in love. You can't control it. We need to handle this as a family." My father said, "Your mother's right. This is painful but we need to move forward. Jet is your brother. Tessa made her choice. Fighting won't change anything." I said, "So that's it. My brother takes my fiancé 6 weeks before the wedding and you're telling me to move forward." Gordon said, "I'm telling you to be practical. You work together. You share a family. This can't become a war." I looked at all 3 of them. My mother. My father. My brother. The 3 people who were supposed to have my back more than anyone on earth. All 3 choosing the path that made Jet comfortable. I said, "If you choose him on this, you lose me." Phyllis said, "Don't be dramatic, Roman." I said, "I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you what happens next. You choose Jet. I disappear. That's the deal." Gordon said, "Nobody's choosing anybody. We're a family." I said, "Then act like one. Tell Jet what he did was wrong. Tell him he destroyed his brother's engagement. Tell him there are consequences." Nobody said anything. Jet looked at his plate. Phyllis looked at the wall. Gordon cleared his throat. I pushed my chair back. I said, "That's what I thought." I left. That was the last time I sat at that table for 5 years. 3 days later, Tessa came to pick up her things from our apartment. She was 2 hours into packing when she told me she was pregnant. I said, "Mine or his?" She said, "His." "I'm sorry. We found out last week. I wanted to tell you first." First. Like I was getting a courtesy notification instead of learning that my fiancée was carrying my brother's baby while I was still wearing the ring she accepted from me. I said, "Get out. Take your stuff. Leave the ring." She left the ring on the counter. $6,800. I sold it the next week. Put the money into a savings account I opened under a new LLC called Driftline Partners. That was the first $6,800 of what would become $2.3 million. I quit Callaway Construction on a Monday morning. Walked into my father's office and said, "I'm done. Effective immediately." Gordon said, "You can't leave. You're running 3 accounts." I said, "Transfer them to Jet. He's the one you chose." Gordon said, "Jet doesn't know construction. He can't run these accounts." I said, "Then you have a problem. But it's not my problem anymore." I walked out. Packed my apartment. Loaded my truck. Drove to Portland. 2,100 miles from my family. New city. New state. No forwarding address. I didn't change my number. I just stopped answering. Portland. I arrived with $22,000 in savings, a project management certification, and 7 years of construction experience. I got a job within 2 weeks. A mid-size commercial builder called Greystone. Hired as a senior PM. $88,000 a year. More than my father ever paid me. Within 6 months I was running their largest project. A $4.5 million medical office build. Delivered on time. Under budget. The owner noticed. Within a year the owner, a man named Thatcher, offered me equity. He said, "I've had 40 PMs in 20 years. You're the best I've ever seen. I'm retiring in 3 years. I want you to take over." I said, "I don't want to take over someone else's company. I want to build my own." Thatcher said, "Then let me invest. You run projects. I'll fund the startup. 60-40 split. You're the 60. Driftline Partners was born. Not the holding company I'd use later. The construction firm. I registered it in Oregon. Thatcher put in $200,000. I put in everything I'd saved since Portland. $84,000. First year revenue, $1.1 million. Second year, $2.8 million. Third year, $5.4 million. I hired 22 people. Bought equipment. Won contracts through reputation and delivery. No drama. No family politics. Just work. While I was building, Callaway Construction was dying. I didn't know the details until later. But here's what happened in those 5 years. Jet took over my accounts. Lost 2 of them within 4 months. The third held on for a year before the client switched to a competitor citing missed deadlines and cost overruns. Gordon tried to hire replacements. 3 PMs in 3 years. None lasted more than 10 months. The company bled clients. Revenue dropped from $6.2 million to $3.1 million in year 2. $1.8 million in year 3. $900,000 in year 4. Jet wasn't just bad at construction. He was bad at business. He used company funds for personal expenses. $14,000 on a vacation he called a client meeting. $8,500 on equipment he never returned because he sold it. Gordon didn't catch it because Gordon trusted Jet the way he always trusted Jet. Blindly. Unconditionally. The way he never trusted me. Tessa had the baby. A boy. She and Jet lived in a house Gordon helped them buy. $40,000 down payment from company funds that should have been reinvested. Meanwhile the company was taking on debt. $180,000 line of credit. Then $320,000. Then a $500,000 SBA loan that Gordon personally guaranteed. The building they operated out of was leased from a commercial landlord. The equipment was financed. Everything on credit. Nothing owned outright. Year 4. I started buying. Not openly. Through Driftline Partners. My holding company. Separate from my construction firm. Registered in Oregon. No obvious connection to Roman Callaway. I bought the building Callaway Construction operated out of. The previous landlord was happy to sell. $840,000. The building was worth $1.1 million, but the seller wanted fast close. I closed in 22 days. Cash. I bought 3 outstanding vendor debts Callaway owed. A concrete supplier. An electrical wholesaler. A lumber yard. Total, $186,000 in receivables. Bought them for 70 cents on the dollar. $130,200 out of pocket. Now Callaway owed me $186,000 instead of the vendors. I bought the equipment lease portfolio. The finance company was happy to offload it. Callaway was 60 days late on 4 of the 7 leases. I bought all 7 for $94,000. Now every excavator, loader, and dump truck Callaway used belonged to Driftline. Building. Debts. Equipment. 3 legs of a company that can't stand without them. Then Jet crashed his truck. 11 p.m. on a Saturday. Ran a red light. T-boned by a delivery van. Blood alcohol .14. Nearly twice the legal limit. He was in surgery for 9 hours. Survived. But the brain damage was severe. He went into a coma. He's been in a coma for 6 weeks now. Doctors say he might wake up. Might not. Might be months. Might be years. When Jet went into the coma, Callaway Construction had no one. Gordon is 67. Semi-retired. Can't run jobs anymore. His health isn't great. Phyllis does the books but doesn't understand operations. Their only competent son was 2,100 miles away and hadn't spoken to them in 5 years. That's when my mother called. The Tuesday night call. Begging me to come home. Save the company. Save the family. And I told her I already owned it. 14 minutes later she called back crying. She said, the accountant confirmed it. Driftline Partners owns the building. The equipment. The debts. You own everything. I said, yes. She said, how long have you been planning this? I said, 18 months. Since the company started circling the drain. I watched from Portland. Watched Jet drive it into the ground. Watched you and Dad pour money in. Watched the debts pile up. I bought the pieces as they became available. She said, you're going to destroy us. I said, I'm not destroying anything. The company's already destroyed. $500,000 in SBA debt. $186,000 in vendor debt. 60 days late on equipment leases. Revenue down 85% in 5 years. That's not my work. That's Jet's. She said, your father guaranteed that SBA loan personally. If the company folds, we lose everything. The house. Retirement. I said, I know. She said, you know? And you're just going to let that happen? I said, you let my fiancée get taken by my brother and told me to move forward. You let Jet run my accounts into the ground. You let him steal from the company. You gave him $40,000 for a house while I was sleeping on a mattress in Portland building something from nothing. And now that the favorite son is in a hospital bed and the company's dying, you call me the backup. The one you told not to be dramatic. She was crying harder now. I said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to restructure Callaway Construction under Driftline Partners. I'm going to renegotiate the SBA loan. I'm going to bring in my own team. I'm going to rebuild the client list. And I'm going to save the company. But it won't be Callaway Construction anymore. It'll be Driftline Northwest. My name. My company. My rules. She said, your father built that company. I said, and I built the one that's buying it. With the $6,800 I got from selling the engagement ring your other son's girlfriend was wearing while she slept with him. She hung up. My father called the next morning. Angrier. Louder. Different approach. He said, you can't do this. That company has my name on it. I said, your name isn't on the building lease. Isn't on the equipment. Isn't on the vendor debts. Your name is on an SBA loan that I can renegotiate or let default. Which would you prefer? He said, I'll sue you. You bought those assets to sabotage us. I said, I bought distressed assets at market value through legal channels. Every transaction is documented. My attorney Whitfield has the paperwork. You're welcome to sue. But you'll spend $50,000. You don't have to lose a case you can't win. He said, you're punishing us for choosing Jet. I said, I'm not punishing anyone. I'm running a business. The same business you should have let me run 5 years ago instead of handing it to a man who stole $22,500 from the company and crashed his truck at twice the legal limit. He went quiet for a long time. He said, what do you want? I said, I want the SBA loan restructured under Driftline. I want the Callaway name retired. I want operational control of all existing contracts. I want access to the full financial records. And I want a signed acknowledgement from you that the company is insolvent and the acquisition was conducted at fair market value. He said, that's everything. I said, you gave everything to Jet 5 years ago. He gave it to bars and vacations and bad decisions. I'm the one picking up the pieces. That costs something. He didn't sign. Not that day. Instead he fought. Gordon hired a lawyer. A guy named Pemberton from the county bar. Pemberton filed a complaint alleging that Driftline Partners engaged in predatory acquisition of family business assets with the intent to coerce. Whitfield responded in 6 pages. Every purchase documented. Every price verified by independent appraisal. Every transaction conducted at arm's length through licensed brokers. The complaint was reviewed by the court and dismissed in 19 days. Gordon's legal bill, $7,200. Money he didn't have. Phyllis tried next. She called my Aunt Rita. My Uncle Vernon. 3 cousins. Organized a family phone campaign. I got 11 calls in one weekend. Each one saying some version of your parents need you and family comes first. I answered one. My Aunt Rita. She said, Roman. Your father is falling apart. Your mother can't stop crying. Jet is in a coma. The company is dying. You need to come home and fix this. I said, I am fixing it. I'm restructuring the company. Saving the jobs of 14 employees who did nothing wrong. Renegotiating the debt so dad doesn't lose his house. But I'm doing it my way. Not as the backup son who gets called when the favorite fails. She said, that's not fair. Your parents love you. I said, they loved me enough to tell me to move forward when my brother took my fiancée. They loved me enough to give him the company I built. They loved me enough to fund his house with company money while I slept on a mattress in Oregon. That's their version of love. I have a different one. She didn't call again. Tessa called. First time in 5 years. She'd heard about the acquisition through Phyllis. She said, Roman. Is it true you bought the company? I said, yes. She said, Jet's in a coma. I have a 4-year-old son. I don't work. We live in a house your father helped buy. If the company goes under, we lose everything. I said, the house is in Gordon's name. Not the company's. The $40,000 down payment was a gift, not a loan. You won't lose the house. She said, how do you know that? I said, because I reviewed every financial document Callaway Construction has produced in the last 5 years. I know where every dollar went. Including the $14,000 vacation and the $8,500 in equipment Jet sold. I know everything. She was quiet. She said, are you doing this to get back at me? I said, Tessa. I haven't thought about you in 3 years. This isn't about you. This isn't about Jet. This isn't about the engagement or the pregnancy or any of it. This is about a company that 14 people depend on for their paychecks. Those people didn't sleep with anyone's fiancé. They just showed up to work every day for a company that was being driven into the ground by a man who couldn't manage a gym membership, let alone a construction firm. She said, that's cold. I said, that's business. Week 3 after the reveal. Gordon still hadn't signed. The SBA was pressing. The loan was 90 days from default. If it defaulted, the SBA would pursue Gordon's personal guarantee. His house. His retirement accounts. Everything. Whitfield called me. He said, your father's running out of time. If he doesn't restructure in the next 60 days, the SBA files. He loses the house. I said, I know. He said, are you going to let that happen? I said, no. But I need him to ask me properly. Not as a demand. Not as guilt. As a business negotiation between 2 adults. Week 5. Gordon came to Portland. Flew. First time he'd ever visited me. Booked a hotel. Called Whitfield's office and asked for a meeting. We sat in a conference room. Gordon. Whitfield. Me. My CFO Diana. 4 people. 1 table. Gordon looked smaller than I remembered. 67 years old. Bad back. Bad knees. The kind of tired that isn't about sleep. He said, I need your help. I said, I know. He said, I made mistakes. Giving Jet the company was the biggest one. He wasn't ready. He wasn't you. I knew that and I did it anyway because he needed something and you didn't. I said, I needed my father to choose me. Once. Over Jet. I never got that. He looked at the table. He said, you're getting it now. I'm here. In your city. In your office. Asking for help. That's me choosing you. 5 years too late. But I'm choosing you. I let that sit. Didn't respond right away. Because 5 years of silence deserves more than an instant answer. Then I said, here are the terms. Driftline acquires all Callaway assets. The SBA loan gets restructured under Driftline with a 7-year repayment. Your personal guarantee gets released. The Callaway name retires. All active employees are retained. You sign a non-compete and a release. The company operates as Driftline Northwest. He said, what about my role? I said, consultant. 2 years. $60,000 a year. You train my team on the client relationships you still have. After that, you retire. He said, $60,000 isn't much. I said, your company was worth negative $680,000 when I bought the pieces. $60,000 a year to consult on a company you drove into insolvency is generous. And we both know it. He looked at Whitfield. Whitfield nodded slightly. Gordon looked back at me. He said, I'll sign. I said, I know. He signed everything. The restructuring went through in 28 days. The SBA released Gordon's personal guarantee after reviewing Driftline's financials and credit history. His house was safe. His retirement accounts were untouched. I saved the man who didn't save me. Because the employees deserved it. Because the clients deserved it. Because the company my father built in 1994 deserved better than what Jet did to it. I didn't save Gordon for Gordon. I saved Gordon for the 14 people who show up every Monday morning. And for Emmett Calloway, my grandfather, who gave Gordon the first $20,000 to start the company and would have been disgusted by what it became. Jet woke up from the coma 3 weeks after Gordon signed. Partial recovery. Speech is slow. Motor function limited. He'll need months of rehab. Maybe years. The DUI charges are pending. His license is revoked. His career in anything requiring responsibility is finished. Tessa is still in Gordon's house with the boy. She works part-time now at a retail store. $15 an hour. The boy goes to daycare. She asked Phyllis to ask me if there was a position at Driftline for her. I said no. Through Whitfield. Formally. Last week I flew home for the first time in 5 years. Not for the family. For the company. Walked through the building I own. The building my father leased for 20 years. My name on the holding company that owns the walls. I walked into the office that used to be mine. The one I managed $1.8 million in contracts from. The one Gordon gave to Jet. It was a mess. Coffee stains. Unfiled paperwork. A parking ticket from 8 months ago tacked to the bulletin board. I cleaned it out. Personally. Took 2 hours. Then I sat in the chair. My chair. In my building. In my company. My phone buzzed. Phyllis. She texted, "Thank you for saving your father. I know we don't deserve it. I know we chose wrong. I'm sorry it took losing everything for us to see what we had in you." I read it. Didn't respond. Put my phone down. Looked at the office. At the building. At the 14 desks outside my door where people work because I decided they deserved a paycheck more than my family deserved a punishment. I'm not the backup anymore. I'm not the easy son. I'm not the one who gets called when the favorite fails. I'm the one who was always building while they were busy choosing someone else. They chose Jet. Jet chose a bar at 11 p.m., a red light, a delivery van. And I chose a holding company. A building. An equipment portfolio. And a conference room in Portland where my father finally said the words I waited 5 years to hear. He chose me. 5 years too late. But he chose me. And the company that carries my name now is the proof that some people don't need to be chosen. They just need to be left alone long enough to build something nobody can take.